and welcome. Tonight, the President orders the nation's secret services, police and military commanders to ramp up surveillance and review security management in Benue communities under attack. Governor Samuel Otom appeals for more troops deployment to halt the killings in Benue State following last night's attack on an IDP camp in Makurdi local government area, which left over 30 people dead. Labour Party state chairmen reaffirmed their support for Mr. Julius Abure as their national chairman, faults the party's NWC meeting, which announced a change of leadership. China begins rehearsing the encirclement of Taiwan with the deployment of long-range rocket artillery and other equipment during 3 days of military drills.
On business news tonight, world food prices declined for the 12th consecutive month. That's according to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization.
We'll begin with the security situation in Benue State, with attacks claiming dozens of lives in the past few days. Seems to be giving the president a cause for concern. In response to that, President Muhammadu Buhari has ordered the nation's secret services, police and military commanders to enhance surveillance and immediately review security management in communities under attacks in Benue State. President Buhari, who condemned the recent killings, demanded that all efforts be made to end extreme violence. In a statement, the president conveyed his grief and sympathy to the family of those who lost their lives, adding, "Our thoughts and prayers are with the families of those murdered. The entire nation stands united in the fight against the forces of terror and evil." He also condemned the use of terrorism as a tool in inter-community conflicts, directing that the attackers be found and dealt with quickly under the law. The president's directive followed the latest attack on an internally displaced people's camp in Ogun in Makurdi local government area of Benue State, where over 30 people are said to have been killed last night. The police spokesperson in the state told Channel Television that a response team has been deployed to the area to keep the peace. The governor, Mr. Samuel Otom, who has undertaken an assessment tour of the troubled communities, is appealing to the president to send more troops to end the killings. Over 100 people are said to have been killed across 3 local government areas, Otukpo, Akpa, and Guma, within the last 5 days.
Since February the 25th, following the conduct of the presidential and National Assembly elections, attacks have been launched on rural communities in Kwande, Guma and Gua local government areas of Benue State by suspected herders. Pockets of these attacks continued till Monday last week, when suspected herdsmen attacked and killed 47 people, including a traditional ruler in Ikobi community.
Last Monday, wake up to a surprise attack by the suspected Fulani herdsman at Ububi. And we they came and invaded the community, killed so many people, and even to kill the traditional rulers of Ububi community. Chief Samuel Adano, he was killed, and some other prominent sons of the community.
Within 48 hours, the attacks moved to Umogidi community of Entepa Ward in Otukpo local government area, where 51 other people lost their lives. The Benue State Deputy Governor visits the area to assess the situation.
The figure as of today that has been authenticated is exactly 50. This is unpardonable, this is unacceptable, and this is something that we cannot continue to tolerate. And the message should be very clear. We cannot continue to do this.
Again on Friday night, the attackers invaded Mbam community in Guma local government area. Eyewitnesses, including a father who lost 2 sons, tell their stories.
I left the way I was sitting outside to my parlor, sitting with my children. Those two were the killed. One slept there. The other one, when he had gunshot, he was running. I don't know how they made him.
Lamenting the continued killings, Governor Samuel Ortom appeals for help from President Muhammadu Buhari.
Within the space of 1 week, we're having more than 100 people killed. And if that continues, it means we shall be completely annihilated from this country. And this is not right. And so the president has charged the security agencies to stand up to their responsibilities. They've been doing so much, that I know. I know the challenges they have, funding, equipment. They are grossly inadequate to cover all the areas. But something has to be done.
In all, we have received 38. A good number of them that survived and reached here were attacked with intent to kill. We reached that conclusion with ease because if you look at the nature of the injuries, they targeted their head and neck region. To the glory of God, the 38 that came here alive are all alive as we speak.
From the scenes of the Friday night attack, the governor visits survivors who are now receiving treatment at the State Teaching Hospital in Makurdi, the Benue state capital.
Meanwhile, the Conference of Ethnic Communities Development Association, comprising ethnic groups in the Middle Belt, is calling on the incoming leaders to implement the charter presented to them by the people of the region when they were campaigning. Speaking at a conference on post-election evaluation and agenda setting in Abuja, the group says the Middle Belt has been under siege of insecurity. The conference also resolved to hold their leaders accountable from the presidency to the local government level.
We have the CONEGDA charter, political charter of 2023, which we presented to the various presidential candidates. And now that the elections are over, we want to move into the next phase to engage with stakeholders on the actualization, implementation and actualization of the issues and demands that are contained in the charter. And so many other people have been killed since the election. It's not just Benue, it's all over the Middle Belt and the central Nigerian area. A lot of people have been killed. And the insecurity situation is escalating. And that is one of the major issues we have articulated in the Charter of Demands. Putting a stop to the killings, making sure that the people that have been displaced are returned to their houses and to their homes and their communities and their ancestral lands, making sure that communities and the entire architectural security architecture is active, is effective enough to stop these killings and the insecurity that has engulfed our nation in the past more than 10 years. It is fundamental. Without security of lives and property, what development are we expecting to take place? We're just deceiving ourselves when people are being killed left, right, and center, and you are thinking that you are that things are okay. Things are not okay.
In Zamfara State, the police command is giving assurances that it will ensure the safe return of women and children who were kidnapped from Wazamiai village in Safe local government area. The command dismissed what is termed as outrageous figures being circulated in the media regarding the number of people abducted, saying that an additional joint tactical team has been deployed for the rescue operation. According to the police spokesperson in the state, Mohammed Shehu, information received by the command from the village head indicates that about 9 women and children left their homes to the bush to get firewood. He explains that as they moved deeper into the forest, they were accosted and abducted by armed bandits. He faulted reports putting the number of the kidnapped victims at 80, while appealing for continuous assistance from the public to ensure the victims are rescued. Staying with security matters, the Inspector General of Police, Usman Alkali Baba, has ordered the posting and redeployment of 21 Assistant Inspector General of Police to various departments, command and formations. In a statement, The force public relations officer, Muyiwa Adejobi, explained that the posting is in line with the IDPs' strategies to strengthen the various operational structures. The IGP charged all the newly posted and redeployed officers to ensure that the activities of their new commands, formations and departments align with the police reform mandate and all standard operating procedures in discharging their duties. Some of the IGs redeployed are Ahmed Abdurrahman, who takes over operations in Zone 14, Katsina. Ibrahim Kauje is now in charge of the police mobile force. The Special Protection Unit is to be led by Matthew Akinyoshola. Zone 12, Bauchi, will be supervised by Sylvester Alabi, while FCID Annex Lagos will be supervised by Frank Kumba. For the full list, please visit our website, channelstv.com. Away from security, the 36 state chairmen of the Labour Party have thrown their weight behind Mr. Julius Abure, the embattled national chairman of the party. The state chairman will brief the media after an emergency meeting at the National Secretariat of the party in Abuja today, faulted the National Working Committee, which announced Mr. Lamidi Apapa as the party's acting national chairman. They maintained that the NWC meeting did not meet minimum requirements of the notice for such a meeting and insist that Mr. Abure remains the national chairman of the Labour Party.
Barrister Julius Abure remain the national chairman of Labour Party along with very distinguished loyal members of the NWC. The 36 chairmen condemn the act of political brigandage perpetrated by this small fraction of NWC led by Comrade Apapa and his gang. It is viewed that Apapa and others who were involved do not seem to appear as appropriate members of Labour Party, as no one member of us with the required sanity would destroy his own home. Those who were suspended by the party, led by the appropriate organ and with due processes, remain suspended. Until NEC decides otherwise. The 36 chairman recommends that NEC meetings should be called without further delay. The 36 chairman upholds that NCWC meeting called by Papa Lamidi was a nullity and it failed ab initio.
Ahead of tomorrow's Easter Sunday, the President-elect Bola Tinubu is asking Nigerians to shun ethnic and religious disharmony for the country to attain prosperity faster. This is contained in his Easter message to Christians today. His message comes against the backdrop of ethnic tension that gripped parts of the country during the just concluded 2023 general election, prompting calls for national healing. The President-elect urged Nigerians to remember their obligation as God's children to love their neighbor regardless of tongue, faith, or tribe. He said that this celebration is in commemoration of Jesus Christ's life of service and his supreme sacrifice for the salvation of mankind, and asked all to imbibe the essential message of Jesus Christ. In part two, after the break, internally displaced persons in a Durumi camp in the FCT join in the celebration of Easter but maintain that they want to return to their ancestral homes to mark the festivity with their families. That's in a moment. Join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television. A reminder of our top stories. The President orders the nation's secret services, police and military commanders to ramp up surveillance and review security architecture in Benue communities under attack. Governor Samuel Otom appeals for more troop deployment to halt the killing in Benue State following last night's attack on an IDP camp in Makodi local government area, which left over 30 people killed. Labour Party state chairman reaffirmed their support for Mr. Julius Abure as their national chairman for the party's NWC meeting, which announced a change of leadership. China begins rehearsing the encirclement of Taiwan with the deployment of long-range rocket artillery and other equipment during 3 days of military drills. The President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, has said his felicitations to Christians in Nigeria as they join their counterparts across the world to celebrate Easter Sunday. In a statement by his media aide, Senator Lawan urges Christians to pray for the peace and prosperity of Nigeria, just as they celebrate Jesus' victory over death on the cross and his resurrection that rekindles the hope of eternal life. According to him, the occasion should bolster the hope of the nation's triumph over current challenges. Senator Lawan also calls for prayers for the incoming administration at the national and state levels. In the same spirit, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, says the Easter period is really crucial and calls for sober reflection amongst Christians as they mark the resurrection of Jesus Christ. While calling for peaceful coexistence, the Speaker asked Nigerians, especially Christians, to use the period to pray for the incoming administration of President-elect Bola Tinubu and Vice President-elect Kashim Shettima, as well as other leaders in the country. For the internally displaced persons at the Durumi camp, the Easter celebration is already here as they host some visitors who came to share in the spirit of the season. While expressing their gratitude for the kindness shown, the IDPs say they would look forward to a time when they will all return to their homes to celebrate with their families and loved ones.
It's midday at the internally displaced persons camp, but there is no Easter fanfare here. Women carry on with their chores while their young ones engage in their own kind of fun activities. Not long after we arrived at camp, some well-meaning persons come bearing gifts. The first caller is giving special attention to the children. Each of them receives a plate of food.
This is a season of love. I believe strongly that love is the greatest gift that God gave to us. This is the Easter season where we're taught that Jesus came to die for us on the cross. So this is just me trying to reach out to these kids because I feel like they are the ones that can actually speak out when they're in pains or when they're hungry or something. So my main aim is to reach out to the kids.
And then more goodwill pours in. This time, both the young and the old partake in the gesture. Visitors at the camp speak to why it has become pertinent to pay attention to these people.
Because of the situation of things in the country, people are suffering. Hunger all over the whole place. So the little thing you can share with people, we do it with joy. And the Lord will bless everybody. That's why I'm here with my team anyway.
The internally displaced persons are thankful but are, however, hopeful of a future where they will spend festive periods such as these with their families and friends.
The occasion of Easter is a global affair, and even if we are not at home, the same people here, Christians and Muslims, reach out to us on Easter occasions. Like every other year, even if you are here, you have just seen them starting arriving now. So honestly, the ones that have come so far, we appreciate it, and we ask for more from God to come to reach out to us, because that makes us feel human. That makes us feel Nigerians, like every other person. So that's what I can say about it.
It's been a while we experienced this show of love. I have just been given rice, indomie and salt. We are so grateful for the gesture.
To round off the visit, It is a session of dancing and prayers. While the gestures brought some succor and will remain on the minds of the internally displaced persons for a while, the message for the season is one which needs to be emulated by all, just as the nation strives towards the attainment of peace and development.
Ahead of the inauguration of the newly elected state governors on May the 29th, more Nigerians have been outlining their expectations. In Lagos and Ogun State, where the governors are returning for their second term of 4 years, residents say more attention is needed in crucial areas such as health, security, and transportation.
Lagos is striving to become a mega city comparable to other mega cities around the world. At the center of this transformation drive is infrastructure development, which is touted to change the face of the commercial nerve center of the country. However, with the 4th Mainland Bridge project underway and the Red Line Rail project almost completed, residents of the state believe that the administration of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu still has a lot to do in the next 4 years, particularly in the area of transportation, security, and provision of job opportunities.
The state of the transport in Lagos does not really what could be classified as that economy as pronounced. So we really want him to do more in that aspect.
Governor Sanwo-Olu should focus for security and provide job for graduates.
In the area of health and housing, the people want the government to do much more than is currently the case.
They should look for a way of maybe building a low-cost housing for people so that the landlords who are using their house as a major business to even frustrate people who are living in Lagos, there won't be that again.
A lot of health center needs to be upgraded. That is, there should be a synergy between him and some probably the House of Assembly members to ensure that these areas in their different constituencies are being attended to so that it can really impact on his second term.
If you notice for the Deputy Governor of Lagos, Mr. Quadri Hamzat, the state government already has mapped out solutions to some of the issues raised.
The biggest challenge for us is traffic management and transportation. So if we are able to resolve the rail, it changes the dynamics of our state. Remember that we must also look at the network before we build some of these roads so that you don't disrupt people's life too much. Again, just to appeal to people that it will come to you. So what happens is if it doesn't pass in front of my street, I will say, well, I haven't seen the road. But the reality is we start with heavy traffic bearing roads first. So in terms of housing, as you know, we are building housing across the state. Biggest challenge for our people is we cannot buy houses the way we buy rice or yam. So that people need to be able to pay over time the moment you have a job. So that's what we need to do better. We are building a lot more. Shangotedo, it's 720 units going to be ready very soon. So we are building a lot more across the state, in Ajara, in Badagry, and so on and so forth. So what we need to explain to people is these are for first-time buyers. It's for young people that are just getting married and so on, so that they can actually start a life, buy it, pay over 10 years.
A professor of economics at the Lagos Business School believes Governor Sanwo-Olu's first term witnessed some commendable achievements in some critical sectors, but wants him to address issue of ethnic diversity in the state.
We've seen the rapid expansion of the road infrastructure. He's been involved in the construction of over 308 roads. In terms of health, we've seen also the expansion of primary health care projects all over the state. This election that just ended, we saw the rise of ethnic tensions in Lagos. And it doesn't matter where it's coming from. That is an ill wind that blows nobody any good. So we'll be happy to see the governor intervene in that aspect.
In neighboring Ogun, The state has continued to witness a rise in its population as a result of industrial and economic activities across the 3 senatorial districts and its proximity to Lagos. Yet, expectations of residents for purposeful leadership is at its peak. All they want is more reforms and initiatives to deepen the ease of doing business, improve security and critical infrastructure.
Talk about the priority among all. Security of lives and property should be given a top priority, and to also improve on infrastructural development.
The another area that I want government to focus on is this Olokola deep sea port. You know, it's a lot of projects. You can see what Dangote is doing with that project that was supposed to be sited in Ogun State, in Lekki. So imagine that huge investment was situated in Ogun State.
Residents of Lagos and Ogun States will be waiting to see the actualization of all promises made by the respective governments in the next 4 years.
Meanwhile, as the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari winds down, the Minister of Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, has reaffirmed the federal government's commitment to completing its legacy project. The minister was speaking during his routine inspection of the ongoing construction work on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway and the Badagry Expressway today. Our correspondent, Kelly Egiga, tells us more.
For some weeks now, traffic has been narrowed around the Kara Bridge outbound Lagos, causing daily agony for travelers and road users. The gridlock has worsened, compounding the usual gridlock in and around Lagos metropolis. But the Minister of Works and Housing, Mr. Babatunde Fashola, is assessing the ongoing construction work from the tollgate area to Otedola Bridge and then the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, with assurances that the project will be completed on April 30 ahead of its inauguration by President Buhari.
We will do our best to deliver this on the expected date, which is 30th of April. So bear in mind, first of all, that this is a small part of their 44-kilometer stretch. So they finished everything else except this last 6 kilometers. And the reason they've kept it to the last is that it's the busiest, is the most built up, is the most difficult part. So if you are driving towards Ibadan now, once you pass this 6 kilometer stretch, you will see that the drive is smooth. So this is the one they saved for the last. And also because it's closest to Otedola Bridge, as they have explained, there is some technical reason why they have to leave all this to the last, so that in future they can avoid the risk of management or settlement in the approach to the bridge.
The minister then leaves for the Lagos-Badagry Road, which was awarded for construction in 2018. While highlighting President Buhari's commitment, he says issues around funding constraints are over with a partnership with the NNPC.
You can see that we are making progress. It's been a difficult undertaking, but clearly it's better than what it looked like in 2015. So this is evidence of the commitment of the Buhari administration to our infrastructure. More importantly, I think people should remember this Badagry Road is part of the Lagos-Abidjan Highway. So this road serves over 40 million commuters all the way to Ivory Coast. And whilst we are looking for funding to expand and upgrade the road all the way to Abidjan, Nigeria has taken leadership here by starting her own section. And this is part of the NNPC investment, funding on roads through the tax infrastructure project policy.
Hopefully, these assurances will bring a sigh of relief to motorists and commuters by the end of this month as work on the ever-busy Lagos-Ibadan Expressway winds down. Kelly Egiga, Channels Television News.
To health matters now, a professor of virology, Wale Tomori, is challenging the federal government to create an enabling environment to motivate Nigerian-trained doctors and other health workers leaving the country to reconsider their choices. He faulted the House of Representatives for passing the Medical and Dental Practitioners Act Amendment Bill 2022, which seeks to mandate medical graduates to render services within the country for 5 years before being granted full license. According to him, if the bill is made a law, government officials should equally stop seeking medical services abroad. He was a guest on our breakfast program, Sunrise.
We talk about capacity building, we don't talk about capacity retention. You need to create an enabling environment for that capacity you have built to function. If you train me as a doctor and the facilities are not there, what, you want me to spend 5 years doing nothing? These are some of the things. So we must create that enabling environment for people to stay. My generation stayed because I had something to work with. You think I would have stayed in Nigeria if the country, I mean, you mentioned the time when people used to come to UCH from outside the country. If the situation was not like that in Ibadan, Virus Lab where I was working, I mentioned to you I used to go to local government and do those. If that situation was not there, you think I would have stayed? I wouldn't. So I don't blame all those who are leaving. It is not patriotism or lack of patriotism. You create that a brain will drain to where it can be nurtured, and that's what is happening to us. Before you give that law to say stay for 5 years, you must create the environment for the person to work. If he doesn't have a place to go, no electricity, no hospital, no what is he doing in the 5 years that he's going to stay? Yeah. So you solve that problem first. You can't pick out just one group and say you must stay. Well, there are other people who are leaving the country. Engineers are leaving, nurses are leaving, people are leaving. It's not just those. How many of the young people are going out of this country? How many of them? IT experts. If you don't create that enabling environment generally, people will not stay. So let the law go for all of us in every aspect. Then we can then come and solve all the things together. You can't pick out just one group and say you must stay.
Let's find out what's happening in the world of business with Kelly Egiga.
Many thanks, Melinda. Let's talk business. A report from the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization is revealed that world food prices have recorded a decline for the 12th consecutive month in March, and it is the first time that the index has fallen for a full year. The FAO's broad food price index fell at 2.1% in March from February, and it is now down 20.5% since reaching its all-time peak a year ago following the Russia-Ukraine war. Grains and cereals, the largest component of the index, was down 5.6% compared to the previous month and down 18.6% over the last 12 months. The prices for vegetable oils were down by 3% in March and a staggering 47.7% compared to March 2022. Well, the FAO says the softening demand and adaptations to global supply chains obstacles were the main factors pushing prices lower over the last year. Meanwhile, in Nigeria, prices of food continue to rise as food inflation surged to 24.35% in February. To other stories now, Nigeria's Forex reserves continues its downward movement as it records another week of decline. Data from the central bank shows gross reserves dropped by $111.10 million week on week to close at $35.39 billion as at April the 5th. Meanwhile, some analysts believe the FX liquidity issues will remain over the short to medium term as there appears to be no positive signal indicating an improvement in FX supply relative to the pre-pandemic levels. Let's stay with Forex as the market trading activity at the FMDQ exchange closed negative this week as the total turnover of transactions carried out at the FX spot Forwards and futures markets fell by about 1/3% week-on-week to over $535 million. A further breakdown shows total value of transactions at the I&E window declined by 0.25% to $404.24 million, while transactions at the FX derivatives market fell by 43% to $131.19 million. Now, also, the value of Naira depreciated by 0.19%. That's about 87 kobo in value to 462 Naira 6 kobo against the dollar at the NAFEX window when compared to 446 Naira 19 kobo it closed with in the previous week. Local bourse continued its descent for the 4th consecutive week as massive sell-offs of Airtel Africa heaped greater pressure on the market, causing the benchmark index to plummet by 2.3% week-on-week. Activity levels mirrored the decline on the market's broad gauge as trading volumes and value declined by 49.1% and 42.8% respectively. Across sectors, the banking, consumer goods, and oil and gas industrial goods indices declined, while the insurance index was the sole gainer of the week. From the aviation sector, Nigerian Aviation Handling Company emerged performer for the week, followed by AXA Mansard, while External PLC recorded the most significant losses. And Transactional Corporation topped the trades for the week, followed by UBA and Fidelity Bank, contributing 43.32% and 21.07% to the total equity volume and value traded in the week. Well, let's wrap things off now as the NASD OTC Securities Exchange Index closed the trading week in negative territory. The unlisted equities index fell by 0.41%. And also, total turnover was in the red. Volume traded fell by almost 1% to 14.66 million units traded, while value dipped by a similar margin to settle at 14.33 million naira. Niger Delta Exploration and Production PLC topped the gainers chart for this week, adding 10 naira to its share price, followed by Friesland, Campina, Wamco. Meanwhile, Central Securities Clearing System was the only loser for the week, down more than 8%. And that does it for us here on the Business Desk at this time. Thanks indeed for watching. I am Kelly Egiga. It's back to you, Melinda.
Many thanks, Kelly. The National Population Commission, in collaboration with the Katsina State Government, has inaugurated the State Census Publicity Committee. The inauguration of the 24-member committee is coming exactly 27 days to the 2023 Population and Housing Census, billed to start on May the 3rd, and will be led by the Deputy Governor, Alhaji Manil Yakubu.
As part of strategies to ensure successful conduct of the 2023 Population and Housing Census, billed to start on May the 3rd, 2023, the National Population Commission, NPC, has been putting out public enlightenment programs to educate every citizen in every nook and cranny of the relevance and benefits to be derived from the conduct of a population and housing census. The Commission has been soliciting the cooperation of the Nigerian citizens in all cadre of life in order to facilitate the exercise. This particular inauguration ceremony of the Katsina State Census Publicity Committee for the 2023 Population and Housing Census is one of the strategies to ensure that enlightenment gets to grassroots and people living in rural communities have a good grasp of the processes and methodology of the 2023 Population and Housing Census.
The vision of the 2023 census is to produce not only accurate, reliable, and acceptable census data, but also an inclusive and user-friendly data that will be used by all segments of the society for development planning and critical program interventions. Therefore, as part of this commitment, the Commission will deploy full digital technology in the conduct of the census, and it will leave no stone unturned in ensuring that the result of the census is acceptable to Nigerians.
The chairman of the committee and deputy governor of Katsina State, Manir Yakubu, recalls that the last population census was 17 years ago, and the data from there placed Kano State as the 4th most populous state in Nigeria. He announces that the state government is committed to the 2023 census and has set up 2 main committees to coordinate the exercise.
The two committees have been mandated to deliberate, strategize, sensitize citizens on the conduct of the 2023 National Population Census in the state. Similarly, local government publicity committee has been constituted to ensure effective publicity coverage for the exercise at local government levels. Accordingly, therefore, His Excellency the Governor of Katsina State, the Right Honorable Aminu Bello Masari, CFR, approved the composition of the State Census Publicity Committee.
The National Population Commission continues to reiterate its commitment to the 2023 census and will see that it is done right and professionally in order to produce accurate, reliable and acceptable census data that will be used by all segments of the society for development planning and critical program interventions.
Let's head to the Niger Delta, where the interventionist agency, the Niger Delta Development Commission, NDDC, says it will soon unveil plans to step up agricultural activities in the region to ensure food security. Speaking during a visit by the Kasha International Agricultural Development Organization at the NDDC headquarters in Port Harcourt, Rivers State, the Executive Director Projects, Mr. Charles Ogumola, says such plans will include actionable steps to promote modern commercial agriculture in the region. The country representative and Director, African Projects for Kasha International Agricultural Development Organization, Hilda Joseph, says the organization is ready to work with the Commission in introducing modern reproductive methods in breeding animals, especially goats, in the area.
It's very funny for a commercial farmer have to wait for the natural cost to have the goat meat. So what we introduce into Nigeria is artificial insemination. And that works overseas everywhere in the world. And the love that you have is calving in Nigeria is so beautiful because it takes 6 months for a goat to deliver. Back in America or elsewhere in Europe, it takes 1 year to calve. But back here, and the goat, when it delivers, it will have up to 2 kiddies, 3 kiddies. So you're so blessed, man. So if you do artificial insemination in that, it's going to be very cool.
We saw this as a way to partner and invest in something that could potentially be explosive. It could potentially give a lot of mileage to livestock management and livestock reproduction as we see it today. And if we can produce more livestock, more robust, more disease-resistant livestock, more meatful livestock that give you more meat, then we do believe that this can increase the potential for jobs.
In the world of sports, the Africa Arm Wrestling Confederation has confirmed that it will feature at next year's Africa Games in Accra, Ghana. The president of the confederation, Mr. Charles Osei Asibe, said that arm wrestling has secured the approval of the Africa Union Sports Council to be part of the Multi-Sports Championship. He added that the Africa Championship, scheduled from June the 21st to the 25th in Ghana, will serve as qualifying tournament for the Africa Games.
Once you create more competition, then you get more people to play, the sport becomes popular. So we have zoned Africa into 5. There will be zonal championship. We're going to encourage every country to form clubs and play league. We'll insist that every country every year must organize national championship. This is how we want to do this. Again, we will fight and look for sponsorship for Africa Arm Wrestling. It is the only way we can make it better. We want to make sure that we are able to host World Championship. These are the things we want to do. What we did last year, early this year, we fought and made sure that Africa Arm Wrestling is part of the upcoming Africa Games. And this is a good work for the sport. We are happy, we are convinced that arm wrestling will be the sport of choice very soon.
In the English Premier League, Erling Haaland has scored his 30th goal as Manchester City closed the gap on Arsenal at the top of the table to 5 points by beating Southampton 4-1. Manchester United strengthened their grip on a top 4 place with a 2-0 win over Everton. Wolverhampton Wanderers defeated Chelsea on Frank Lampard's return to the Blues' hot seat. Son Heung-min scored his 100th goal as Tottenham Hotspur rode their luck to beat Brighton. Newcastle United came from behind to beat Brentford 2-1 and strengthen their position in the top 4. Aston Villa maintained their charge towards securing European football next season with victory over Nottingham Forest. AFC Bournemouth moved out of relegation zone with an impressive victory over Leicester City. FIFA has restricted funding to the Football Association of Indonesia after the country lost the right to host this year's Men's Under-20 World Cup. The FIFA president, Gianni Infantino, explained that funding would be frozen until further notice. He said the World Football Governing Body would assess a strategic plan to improve Indonesian football before lifting the restrictions. The FIFA Under-20 World Cup, which is due to take place from May the 20th to June the 11th, is still without a host, with Argentina tipped as the most likely candidate. In the National Basketball Association, Klay Thompson has scored a game-high 29 points as visiting Golden State Warriors moved within 1 win of claiming a Western Conference playoff spot with a 119-97-point win over Sacramento Kings. The Golden State Warriors overcame 24 turnovers to move ahead of Los Angeles Clippers in their duel for the 5th playoff position in the West. The Sacramento Kings earned 15 points each from Trey Lyles and Chimezie Metu. On the international scene, Rwandans as well as Africans and the world may never forget April the 7th, 1994. On this day, about 1 million Tutsis were killed by Hutu extremists. Members of the international community in Nigeria today joined the Rwandan High Commission and the United Nations to remember victims of the dastardly act 29 years after. The solemn event took place at the UN House in Abuja.
A minute of silence by members of the international community. It's the 29th anniversary of the Rwanda genocide, and the country honors the memory of the over 1 million lives lost in one of the deadliest genocides the world has ever recorded. The remembrance opens deep wounds. However, Rwandans have been commended for refusing to be defined by their tragic history.
There is nothing Rwandans cannot overcome through unity, hard work, and perseverance. We need to encourage young Rwandans to learn about our past so that they can lead with historical clarity. I thank my fellow Rwandans for the courage they have shown in overcoming impossible odds.
The United Nations also recognizes the journey of the Rwandan people towards healing and reconciliation and highlighted the dangers of hate speech and rising intolerance.
We remember with shame the failure of the international community. A generation since the genocide, we must never forget what happened and ensure future generations always remember. How easily hate speech, a key indicator of the risk of genocide, turns to hate crime.
Rwanda, we never remain insensitive to that, and we are ready to work with all the nations to ensure that our commitment to never again is not just mere words.
The Nigerian government representative at the solemn event believes the country can borrow a leaf from Rwanda on how it turned its challenges into opportunities.
While the Nigerian government acknowledges the efforts made by the government and the people of Rwanda in managing the shocking cruelty with a strong spirit of reconciliation and sustainable peace recorded, I employ us all to work very hard in resolving world crisis.
The lesson from the Rwanda genocide is clear. Nothing good comes out of prejudice. Reconciliation is sometimes a tall order, as the past cannot be changed. But with forgiveness and healing, we can move forward. Victoria Longchun, Channels Television News.
Before today's events in Abuja, the 29th anniversary of the genocide had been on in Rwanda, culminating in an event yesterday in Kigali, where President Paul Kagame applauded Rwandans for turning to nation building. Mr. Kagame also used the opportunity to advise against the use of hate speech, which he says led to the sad incident of 1994.
Rwandans from different sectors of the country, members of the diplomatic corps, the army and the clergy gather here at the Kigali Memorial Grounds for the 29th memorial in honor of the over 1 million citizens that lost their lives in the 1994 genocide. It is indeed a solemn gathering. The commemoration of the genocide is usually organized following the African Union's policy decision of recognizing the 7th of April as a day of remembrance for the victims of the genocide and reaffirmation of Africa's resolve to prevent hate speech and its consequence on the continent. The president and his wife arrived at the venue and lay a wreath in honor of the departed. He thereafter lights the flame, signifying nation building after the dark time. Back in the auditorium, a minute's silence is observed. When it was time to speak, President Paul Kagame applauded Rwandans for turning their challenges into nation building. He also told them that no one shall dictate how they live their lives anymore under his watch.
We must fight revisionist ideologies because they are easily passed on from generation to generation. We must fight denial because that is how history repeats itself. Rwanda's youth are privileged to have a country to call home.
Some of the survivors share their experiences and life after the genocide.
So it means a lot to the country we are building today. There are an initiative called out by the government of Rwanda through the museum. When we feed the museum, we are emphasizing on a traditional code called the Gacaca, how to help us to reconcile people of Rwanda. Those are the government's initiative, but also the individuals' initiative come from survivors who made a step of forgiveness.
It was very dangerous because they killed all my families at parish and the former the office of district Kamembe. So also they violated my mother.
The media, propaganda and hate speech played a pivotal role in the 1994 Rwandan genocide. A departure from these to national unity forms a major part of this 29th year anniversary.
China's military is seen to be rehearsing the encirclement of Taiwan during 3 days of military drills. The exercises began hours after the president of Taiwan returned from a trip to the United States. Beijing, which views Taiwan as a breakaway province of China, calls the operation a stern warning to the island's government. The Taiwanese Defense Ministry reports that 71 Chinese military planes and 9 ships crossed the Taiwan Strait Median Line, which is an unofficial dividing line between the two countries. And the main news again. President Muhammadu Buhari today ordered the nation's secret services, police and military commanders to ramp up surveillance and review security management in Benue communities under attack. Governor Samuel Otom has appealed for more troop deployment to halt the killings in Benue State following last night's attack on an IDP camp in Makurdi local government area, which left over 30 people dead. That's the news at 10 to 9. I'm Melinda Akinlami. On behalf of the team, good night and have a happy Easter.